Minecraft is made of blocks. Dirt, grass, stone. All of these are cubes, but some have different shapes like slabs, ladders, stairs, and torches. In my Minecraft clone, I render blocks by generating the faces on the fly in code, but for custom block shapes this is unmaintainable, since I would have to write and debug more code every time I add a new block shape, and so I decided to move the information about blocks into data. Remember that blocks are made out of faces, and each faces are made out of vertices. But it would be horrendously tedious to specify each vertex one by one for a block, especially for more complicated shapes like stairs. In Minecraft's resource packs, block models are specified in JSON files by cuboids, which abstracts away all the individual points. We will be mimicking this system in our clone. However, this cannot handle shapes like slopes and curves, but it will be a good starting point. With this, we have our first block that isn't in the shape of a cube, a stone slab. But now that we are able to support different block shapes, we can focus our attention on block states. Block states specify what properties a block has at a point in time. For example, a lever can be flipped on or off, and these count as different states. In the case of a slab, we want it to be a bottom slab, a top slab, or a vertical slab. In the past, Minecraft had metadata for each block, such that 16 different states could be supported. For each block position, it allocated a nibble for each block state alongside a byte for the block type. But now, there isn't a hard cap on the number of block states per block type, with the only limitation is that all block state combinations are loaded on startup. How does it accomplish this without consuming too much memory? Each chunk contains a block palette listing all the unique block states within a chunk, and the data in the chunk consists of indices pointing to that palette, rather than global block IDs. This is the right compromise between minimizing allocated memory for block types and allowing any block state, so we can adapt the system and even apply an additional memory optimization. As mentioned in the first episode, we store data in layers, storing single values where it is all the same, but we can go even further. If the layer only contains block states from the first 16 values in the palette, which it often will, we can store it in nibbles instead of bytes, having the memory usage per layer. With this, we can have different block states, including the coveted vertical slab with its different orientations. Back to the topic of JSON, it is an easy, human-readable way to define data, which allows us to decouple the model from the code, which allows for the potential for custom models via resource packs in the future, without needing to create a mod in Java. But if we can define the model in JSON, why not go a step further and define all the block's properties in JSON? By moving all content that is in the game into data, it has several advantages. Firstly, the code becomes easier to maintain, since the same common logic will be used for all the blocks. Secondly, it means that we can create mods to add custom blocks and safely distribute them, if you join a server with them installed. When running arbitrary code such as Java mods, there's always a security risk, but by making mods out of data, we remove that risk entirely. Thirdly, by defining it in data, it means that we can eventually make or adapt tools to simplify the process. For example, a GUI tool can be made to make a block without even knowing any JSON or code. If someone still wants to make a Java mod to do more advanced things with the game, they could still do that, but we should minimize the need for this wherever possible, to make it easy to make and easy to distribute. As this project continues, I want to define more and more things in data, so that essentially mod support is there by default, rather than tacked on. About 2 weeks ago, I asked you about your favorite experience playing Minecraft, and you gave me a lot of feedback which was very useful to think about. Many of you emphasized exploring, which is no surprise, considering each new Minecraft update of recent seems to focus on a particular biome. That means that any clone that is to live up to it must have plenty of content in the world, or at the very least have a world that is lively with lots of thought put into it. Others said that building was important, but most curiously, building was often paired with the idea of a limited block palette. Personally, I think the friction in building needs to be reduced. If you have the resources and the creativity to imagine a building, more time should be spent choosing the best outcome and less time placing one block at a time. As far as block palettes go, it tells me that blocks need to fill in their own unique niches and not be too similar with one another. Some said that the challenge of night was important, and this resonates with me quite a bit. When I originally bought Minecraft, I thought it was a mix between a sandbox and a tower defense. Doesn't mean that this clone will be a tower defense, but I will be putting on an emphasis on the challenge and survival. Don't worry about mob griefing, however. I don't like the splattering of Enderman's pickups or random creepers ruining the terrain and your hard-built decorations. And of course, we can't forget how many of you want multiplayer. The right friends can amplify the fun of a game, and rest assured I'll be adding this to my game. Now for the comments you left on the last video. White light level 15. 15 may seem arbitrary, but it fits nicely in 4 bits, and especially since I'm doing colored lights which are memory intensive on their own, it's important to minimize that. However, I did have an extra 4 bits in the short used to store lighting calculations, so expanding to light level of 31 is entirely possible. The bigger concern then becomes the performance cost of calculating light. 31 is not twice as bad as 15, it's exponentially worse, given the worst case scenario, but I will keep in mind to maximize player freedom with light levels. On textures. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who offered their expertise in texture artistry towards this. It's encouraging to see that you want to contribute. However, the sad thing is, from a legal perspective, I cannot rely on this because of the likelihood that contributed textures may be based on Minecraft's textures, which would bring me back to square one, unable to redistribute it without violating copyright. As for music and making it open source, there's still concern, but much less so. If you recall Bucket, it was killed off due to a DMCA, which happened since Mojang owned it, but not the entirety of its copyright. This means if I work with others, I have to make sure that potential copyright issues are resolved beforehand, which requires some legal advice first. As the game gains its own identity, I won't discount the possibility of working with others, but for now, it remains a question for the future. On Patreon. At the moment, I don't really have anything to give back, no private server or exclusive content, and it wouldn't make any sense for me to restrict suggestions to those who pay when I want to hear from everyone. You should get what you pay for, so I wouldn't feel right taking your money at the moment. If you really do want to support me, however, then after your family, friends, and those in need, pray for me. I know that's a little out of the blue for a devlog, but I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important. Next time, we'll tackle placing and breaking blocks, which was saved until now due to all the back-end work regarding meshes, culling, and lighting. If you want to see this, stay tuned. Take care, and I'll see you next time.